You're in the water loop.
For this episode, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee to learn about how they're using nature-based solutions to manage their relationship with the Mississippi River. In this case, it's through a riverfront park here on the Tennessee side and a riverfront park across the river in Arkansas. On this side of the Mississippi, they've reimagined their riverfront space into Tom Lee Park that provides the ability to handle flooding of the Mississippi River, manage stormwater, and provide tons of amenities for the public. On the other side, Ducks Unlimited is building a 1,500-acre park, and it's going to be connected to this space, creating an incredible resilience for this Memphis community to be able to handle the flooding of the river, reduce nutrients and sediments running off, and provide people with recreation and education, all through nature-based solutions. First, I sat down with Coletta of the Memphis River Parks Partnership. Carol, so great to meet with you here in Memphis and Tom Lee Park, just a few hundred feet from the Mississippi River. Tell me about the idea to revitalize and renovate this space along the river.
Well, the riverfront is separated from the city by a very high bluff. You can see a 5-lane road and then another steep
Drop
bluff,
right?
Yeah, bluff, because the river rises and falls at Memphis at 50 feet a year. So you can't get that close to the river because you'll be underwater. So we never quite knew what to do with this property. It was really isolated in a lot of ways. In 2017, my organization conducted a riverfront concept with under the leadership of the former mayor, and looked at the entire 6 miles of riverfront that we manage and said, how do all these pieces and parts fit together? We had really treated them as discrete pieces, right? This park, that little park, that big park. And no one really knew where most of the parks were. So it was very exciting to see Studio Gang in 2017 tie the entire riverfront together. They looked at 100 years of plans. First plan for the riverfront was done in 1924, which is amazing. So 100 years ago. And so it was quite special to see it all tied together, to see what asset we really had. It's hard to see the asset with new eyes. So that's always the value of bringing someone in really smart to say fresh eyes on this piece. And we could have started in a lot of different places because we've got 6 miles of property, but we started here because this was the most connected to the city. It has really interesting qualities about it. It is both adjacent to downtown, and then around downtown there's a crescent of very distressed neighborhoods, some of the poorest in the state, one of which is the poorest in the country. And so to have this property where you could serve people across the income spectrum was very exciting. And I think those things, and to say nothing of the incredible landscape we have here and its importance to our sustainability and environmental well-being. So we thought this park hit on all of those cylinders, plus we could provide education and job opportunity through what we've done here, particularly around environmental science and STEM learning. And even in our first full semester of a school year, we had more than 10,000 school students come on learning field trips. So not just to play, but also to learn.
That's fantastic. Could you talk a little bit about the environmental benefits? The way that the park, again, allows that space for the river if it's needed, and then also has some great stormwater features.
This park is built on a Corps of Engineers dike wall, so we were not allowed to cut. And in some places, not even to fill. Fortunately, we were able to fill on the east side of the park, but not the river side of the park. But we were able to cut nowhere. So there are we have bioswales, we have rain gardens all through the park. that is all meant to sustain the natural landscaping that is made for pollinators. Pollinators love this place. And that's great because we're on North America's largest flyway on the Mississippi River right here. So all of this is I mean, there's so much underneath what you see in terms of its design to make the world a healthier, more sustainable place.
Yeah. You mentioned the river, can rise and fall a 50 feet range. That's incredible. I guess there are flood stages where it could even get into the park area. I mean, there's the potential and there is the ability for the park to take that water.
Absolutely. I mean, they were very well aware of that. We did have a flood in 2011 that covered some of this park, some of the road beside it. Certainly we have one park, one of our largest parks, actually floods most years. The water's been very low, historically low, the last couple of years. But if you look back on that, we know, and certainly Kate knows, and her team know much better than I do, what it takes to absorb water that may come from floods and have designed really well. Our, flip side of that is, we're now in the heat zone and, I'm glad we were in their hands because the heat is on, even though today belies that. It's beautiful today. Mid-June, who knew? But we are having miserably hot days. I mean, not just here, but everywhere. And it's shocking how fast it's coming. It shouldn't shock us, but it does.
Right.
So heat is coming very quickly. And again, that is just thinking about how to make a place cooler, how to do, Studio Gang talks about shade urbanism. And they mean it, thinking about how do you create shade, in a regular pattern so that human beings can still enjoy, their outdoors. Because if you don't provide enough shade, there's a good example of it at the top of our cobblestone walkway. There's no shade there for five blocks.
People will just go inside.
It's just getting miserable. Yeah. We're all going to carry parasols and little fans, but we don't want that. We want people to come and enjoy it. And the park it's interesting. Even the architecture has, the sunset canopy that Studio Gang designed. That's a centerpiece of the park. You get under there and the temperature drops 10 degrees.
Well, I was watching people play basketball. That's a brilliant feature. Absolutely. Could you talk a little bit more about just some of the amenities like that are in the park? What are the different kind of features for people to use from a recreation standpoint?
Yeah. Well, we have this great little fountain behind us at the north end of the park that has mist and fog. So dressed like we are today, we could go out there in the fog part and walk away dry.
Just get a little cool
exactly,
off, right?
But we would feel as if we'd been at a fountain. So I love that. And then beyond that, we do have food and beverage in the park. Which is always hard for parks to sustain, but I love that. We're learning as we go.
Well, if you don't have that, then people leave the park.
Yeah, they leave the park. And by the way, we want them to leave the park. I mean, we want them to enjoy everything there is around this. That was the whole point. Join it up to the city.
You've got downtown.
And this Cut Bank Bluff is the first move anyone's ever made to create ADA access from the top of the bluff, where the city is, to the bottom of the banks, where the river is. There's a river-themed playground done by Monstrum in Copenhagen, brought to us by Scape, and lots of river critters there, lots of fun. And
I walked by that yesterday. You have like the otters, the sturgeon, the caterpillar, and cypress trees.
Yes.
So it's educational too. Like at the same time, it's a playground.
We also have beautiful sculpture by the Astor Gates, internationally recognized Chicago-based artist, the Astor Gates, who did a beautiful monument to listening with 32 thrones in 2 locations. And it was inspired by the 32 lives saved by Tom Lee, a skiff boat operator, who in 1925 saved 32 people from drowning in the Mississippi. He had a skiff boat. He could not swim. He was black. They were white. The city rewarded him with a sanitation job, which is the best job that I guess they could come up with for a black man at the time. It's a story of heroism, of courage, of generosity, of humanity. And we've really tried to make those values very present in the park.
Could you talk about the idea that Ducks Unlimited is developing a 1,500 acre park and natural area right across the river? It's going to be connected by that big river crossing trail, and just the significance of that.
It's enormously significant because having a city that looks out over this magnificent river to wetlands, right? To a floodplain. How great is that? How unusual is that? Think about what you're normally looking across in New Orleans, in St. Louis. The Detroit view's a little better, but it's still a city. So this is the only major city I know of that you look across and you see that floodplain. And so to know that it will always remain in a natural state, and you'll always have that juxtaposition of city and landscape, city and floodplain, I think is amazing. And I mean, really, it's the $1 million view.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so impressed with what's happened here, and it's really a model for how riverfront communities should use that amenity they have, having the water, having their town, bring them together through a park like this. So congratulations on this incredible achievement.
Thank you so much.
Waterloop.
Next, I crossed over the Mississippi River into Arkansas to meet up with Jake Spears of Ducks Unlimited.
Tell me where we are, like, in relation to Memphis and everything. Yeah.
So if I could throw a little bit farther, I'd be able to hit Memphis right now. We're just across the river from Memphis, just outside of West Memphis, in between the I-40 and I-55 bridges.
Okay, and what's this area historically been? And what's been maybe the environmental challenges with it?
So this has primarily been farmland, about as far as you can see in any direction. You got farm, soybean, cotton, rice, corn. We're in the Mississippi alluvial valley. This is all very low ground, very flat ground, very fertile soils. And before farmland was here, this is all bottomland hardwoods and stuff like that. And essentially this whole delta was one giant wetland. Yeah. And it's been converted to primarily farmland over the years. And one of the issues we see around here is flooding, particularly in the spring. We're right here along the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River drains a lot of water from a lot of other states. As all that water comes rushing down with the spring rains, we tend to see a lot of flooding around here, and that's a big problem. With all this farmland being here, as the Mississippi River gets up, it brings a lot of sediment and nutrients back into the water with it once it recedes, and all that water goes downstream into the Gulf and causes a lot of problems down there as well. So kind of a situation and a problem you see in a lot of bends along this whole river, right? Yep.
So why is this an opportunity for Ducks Unlimited to put in a big park? What created that idea?
Well, this location right here specifically, I guess a few years ago, we, had a conversation and decided it really made no sense that we didn't have a big project right here. Being right across from Memphis, that's where our headquarters is. We really don't have any big projects right here along the river in this area. So a few years ago, we teamed up with the Big River Park Conservancy, and we all decided that we wanted to do a public project here. With so many people being in Memphis, so many people being in West Memphis right here, it was a great idea to put some stuff on the ground that people can see and sort of spread awareness about the work that we do. And also the work that we are doing at this location is going to have a lot of environmental benefits. So it was really a no-brainer to get this project going.
Give me the rundown, the statistics, what this place is going to become.
Well, the real idea of this place is essentially to convert it back to what it was before humans ever showed up and changed the landscape entirely. We want to make it what it was. And that's primarily bottomland hardwood forests and shallow water wetlands and native grass areas, and that's what we aim to do. This place is 1,500 acres in total. There's several hundred acres of hardwood and wetland areas that are already here, but the rest of it is farmland. And our grand idea for this is to, I think we're planning to reforest about 600 acres of bottomland hardwood trees. There will be over 300 acres of new lakes and shallow water wetlands developed, and then another 300 acres of native grass meadows. So when all of this is said and done, hopefully it'll look like just a natural piece of habitat and something like what was here before humans showed up.
And like you said, really be able to handle that seasonal flooding, reduce the nutrients and sediment heading out of this land back downriver, right?
It has a lot of downstream benefits. You know, as this river jumps up and runs across this farmland, you know, it's just all flat and barren in the spring, and there's really nothing to slow that water down. So once we get all these trees put into ground, all these native grass areas planted, and all these wetlands developed, when that water does jump up from the Mississippi, all that stuff is in place to slow the water down, to capture a lot of those nutrients and sediment and prevent a lot of that stuff from going downstream.
Yeah. Could you talk about the public amenities that are going to be part of it? Yes, a big natural area, but you really prioritize kind of that public access, which is great for recreation and education.
Yeah, so being right here next to Memphis with all of those people there, that I'm sure a lot of those people have never stepped foot in the outdoors, and putting something like here that's easy public access for those people to reach, it'll be a great way to connect those folks to the outdoors. So there's going to be over 7 miles of public trails for walking and biking. There's going to be a big pavilion right on this main road that we're on now that will sort of it'll be a great gathering spot where people can hang out and sit and eat lunch and all of that, but there will be some placards and things for them to actually read up on the type of work that we did out here, and also explain to them the benefits. So it'd be a great way for schools in Memphis and West Memphis to bring kids out here, introduce those new folks to the outdoors. Another thing we're excited about is Purina Pet Food is sponsoring the development of a dog park right outside of that pavilion. So if you're interested in training a dog, working your duck dog, you'll be able to bring him out here and enjoy that.
Awesome. Could you talk, I think lastly, about the funding that was used to put this project together?
Yeah, so as you can see, this is all still farmland at the moment, though we originally planned to get all of this work started this summer, actually, and we were slowly scraping together the funds to make that happen. We were just about there. But while we were putting that money together, we actually applied for a large grant with the Department of Transportation. The city of West Memphis helped us out with that. And we were happy to hear a few months ago that we were awarded that grant totaling $16 million. And that's going to fund the development of this entire park.
Memphis is one of those communities right on the Mississippi River that needs to do what it can to protect itself from flooding, at the same time that it's taking care of the environment and protecting quality of life for its citizens. I've seen how on the Tennessee side, they've invested in Tom Lee Park, an incredible amenity right on the water that provides recreation for the people at the same time it protects the city from flooding. And then on the Arkansas side, Ducks Unlimited is building a 1,500-acre park, returning it to bottomland hardwood and wetlands and all kinds of amenities for the people to also reduce flooding and the pollution going downstream. A really great story of nature-based solutions here in Memphis.
You're in the water loop.